You see, the first target, as you say, talks about at least people knowing about it and understanding it. What we want to take it is towards action, that people take positive action towards actually dealing with it. Biodiversity is a subject which is not only confined to some industries or some governments, or cannot only be solved through policy mechanisms. It is something which people need to participate in, translate into their everyday lives in terms of individual decisions they make, in terms of positive actions of, say, things like planting trees or recycling materials and things. So I think there is a very major thrust required on communication, education, public awareness, and capacity building. What we did at this COP was that we had a parallel 2 days where I think a group of almost 280 people dealing with education really asked themselves the question that how can education be a true driver of this whole process and be a true partner. And I think we've come out with some excellent recommendations. These are now going to be presented at a side event on the 17th so that it can become mainstreamed into the whole COP process. And I think the CBD secretariat has been extremely positive to work with us on that. But as you can see, therefore much more needs to be done. Yes. But I think we have made a good beginning in this COP.
That's a start. So anybody who talks about biodiversity, climate change and environment would understand that education is a fundamental element required. Why do we have only one CEE? Why is it that the mainstreaming of environmental education has not happened yet? What is the gap? Where is the gap?
I think for many years, people have not truly understood that the education can really make a difference. They feel that it's a good thing to do. So most documents will have it mentioned somewhere or the other. It can be mentioned at the beginning, it can be mentioned at the end. But when it comes to hard discussions, targets, what are you going to do, funding, then education, communication is usually forgotten, unfortunately, both the COPs. Now, what you're seeing at the COP11 here is, I think, something which is truly remarkable, because the CBD is wanting that let's operationalize it. People don't know how to operationalize it. Most of the traditional people involved in COP are policy people. Right. And how do you operate? What does it mean to say we want to do this? Now, I think what we've been able to do is to demonstrate, it's not one CE, but through CE, educators around the globe are seeing this as an opportunity to say it. So the draft which we are doing here, we are sending it to a network of people, and they are all very excited how this will be done. So I'm seeing that we have made a breakthrough. Hopefully we can make a breakthrough on climate change as well. So let's see, I think this example should be taken by UNFCCC and see if the same type of process can happen. And we see ourselves potentially partnering CBD in taking this thing forward.
So let's say educational awareness, the awareness programs have been successful, people know about it. Now the most important stakeholders, the youth, is aware, but they want to participate in the decision-making process at a summit like this. They're not able to do that. What's your comment on that, and what's the way out?
You see, participating in terms of these very organized government processes is a different skill altogether, and it's a different process to understand it. It doesn't meet with normal logic. There are processes and steps. I think the way to do it is to get youth voices discussing the key issues and then feeding them in to the system. Now, I think that's the type of attempt which is there. But I think that interface needs to be really built. The interface between a government process and the youth. We had a youth meeting here, for instance, where we were networking with the youth and getting them to involve. But how do you get people to feel efficacious, that they can make a difference, and they should actually make a difference? The other thing is that many of the youth want to direct these questions to themselves and say that, look, can't we make a difference? Do we always need to just suggest to government, or can't we do something in ourselves? And I think you're finding a lot of that happening too, that youth are drawing up programs of what they will do themselves directly through youth networks and other things. One of the things I've just come from a meeting where we're suggesting that youth in this country should actually engage themselves in monitoring the environment. Okay, so if we can have local environments and ground truthing, you have satellite data, but who will do ground truth data and say that this is happening, and can we network it, and can that network of information actually go in? And this is a very concrete, specific suggestion, and I'm hoping in the next year or two we will actually see that happening.
Right. So in fact that was supposed to be the next question, what are we looking forward when you already answered it?
Well, this is just one. I mean, we've got now such wonderful suggestions of things which you can actually start doing from tomorrow. Let me give you another example. We feel that being out in nature is perhaps the best way you can relate to it. Now, we are saying that shouldn't every child in the world who goes to school at least once go to a 3-day nature educational program or a nature educational camp? In India alone, it's that means something like 6 or 7 million children will have to be provided. And then I say, okay, how many can be taken in one camp? And it's about 4,000 over a year. So how many campsites do I need to? So it's a program, it immediately gets it. There was someone who came up and said yesterday that in my school I teach A for apple. But in my country we don't grow apples. We have other fruit, local fruit. And I said, why is it that local biodiversity is not mentioned? Why should A be for apple always, all over the world? Small thoughts. But these are thoughts which can actually change the way you look at things.
Right. So in fact, I spoke to a gentleman from UNESCO and they said that we need more regional context so that people can relate to. So I will understand from you at the ground level, what has been the response of schools at large when it comes to incorporating education programs based on environment in their already heavily burdened academia?
We shouldn't really look upon sustainability and environmental education as being one more subject. It is something which blends in and is infused into the way you look at things, not that you add content. I gave you an example of how we could talk about biodiversity, local biodiversity examples when, for instance, you are teaching science or maths. Yesterday someone said that they did their entire mathematics course looking at terrace gardens of rice fields, and how you can relate this thing. So first of all, don't look upon it as one more adjectivized thing that, oh my God, one more thing to do. We have formed a network called Paryavaran Mitra. Over 100,000 schools in India are today lined up with that. Through the mobile network, they can all have someone they can talk to. Each one of these are doing an action project. It could be saving water, it could be a kitchen garden, it could be a tree plantation drive, it could be understanding local grains, it could be bringing local vegetables into their midday meal scheme. Several things are possible to save, and I think we can, if we were to put more resources into education, I think you will get far more results than several other things which we run after. But the world needs to wake up and see that, look, education does make a difference. And we are getting there, but we are not quite there yet.
So finally, my question to you would be, we have already made a start and we're getting there. But what are the major roadblocks still in the process of mainstreaming environmental education?
I think from the educator's point of view, I think policymakers like numbers. So if I give you this much money, what will you achieve? Now, if I say I'll increase awareness, I'll do this and that, which is considered like soft goals, then it doesn't work. So we need to convert something which an economist or a planner understands, that you give us this and we will do this. So I think that's one from the educator. We need to create more awareness and more case studies of success stories, which we need to get to the planners. Planners need to see, okay, this was done here, and wow, it led to this. I think people get convinced when they see something in the ground level. And I think today we have several examples where we can take people to and show them.